Is this the dumbest ordinance to ever be presented before council? It's what one council member thinks, but first, let's calm our souls and experience your moment of Zen. Man, that calms me down every time. Seeing footage like this reminds me that no matter what the politics are, this truly is a special place. And I need these reminders, especially after the most recent town council board meeting, where I saw more emotion than any of the other meetings I've covered since I've been here. You could see the anger and disgust on council's face as they were required by law to say aye to approve an election in April for a citizen-led ordinance that establishes fees of $150 per bedroom per month for every vacation rental within town limits. And folks, I'm not gonna hold back on this one. It's rare for me to come out and express how you should vote. That's not my job. I mostly try to stay neutral and report on the facts while giving a little bit of my opinion on what the potential benefits and consequences are of certain decisions. But this one is too important to completely stay silent on, because after all, I do agree with Councilmember Posey, who was the one to call it one of the dumbest pieces of legislation to ever cross the town of Pagosa Springs. So here's what happened. On Thursday night, the town of Pagosa Springs held their usual board meeting. And this one went rather quick until the last agenda item, Ordinance 974, which is a supposed citizen-led ordinance to basically tax permitted short-term rentals, a base fee of almost $2,000 a year per bedroom, and to use that money for workforce housing. And right before the public discussion and vote on this, council went into executive session, which is closed to the public, to discuss the legal ramifications of this ordinance with the town's attorney. They spent almost an hour in the executive session, and upon coming out, you could immediately tell they were not happy. Now, before we go further, we need to know how we got here. For home rule charters in Colorado, in which Pagosa is one, any citizen can create an ordinance and petition for the town to hold an election on that ordinance. If a citizen can get 5% of registered voters to sign their petition, by law, council has to approve an election for it. Can you guess how many registered voters are within the town limits of Pagosa? About 1,115 or so, which means that it only takes 56 signatures on a petition to have a vote on whatever you want. 56, that's it. You can go to Riff Raff on the Reel on a Saturday night, buy everyone a beer in exchange for a signature, and you can get your own ordinance to put before voters that states whatever you want, which is insane. Can you really call this a citizen-led petition if that's the case? If you have ever watched one of these board meetings, you always know there's a certain individual named Bill Hudson at every board meeting that speaks at nearly every public comment opportunity. And he's made a career out of this. He runs a website where he writes opinion pieces that basically sells advertising. And a lot of his opinions can be considered rather extreme at times. But really, I think all this is kind of important to know, because this ordinance was created by Bill, not the citizens of Pagosa. We need to know where this is coming from, because this is a much bigger issue than just a STR fee. There's a history here of Hudson being polite at these board meetings, and then for the next 7 days or so on his website, criticizing council and local businesses. And I think as a whole, my suspicion is everyone is kind of getting tired of this. I mean, one citizen put it this way in the last public comment of the night at that board meeting: this ordinance is a slap in the face to all the work council has put in. And I think he's right. Council has put in years of work and thought into this. They have thoroughly studied the issue and sought out public input to do what's best for Pagosa. They are creating positive changes, all while wrestling with how to balance this workforce housing issue without jeopardizing our main income stream, which is tourism, which provides the majority of our taxes, which provides our roads and our government buildings and your standard of living. And then one citizen doesn't get his way after all his public comments and hundreds of articles that he wrote, so he tries to bypass council and create his own ordinance. It's indeed a slap in the face. And all this frustration just spilled out into this board meeting. After executive session, council members went off because they know, after talking to the town attorney, they know just how damaging this ordinance could be to this community. Jeff Posey called it the most absurd bad law to ever come before council. Sherry Pierce said this opens up our community to lawsuits when this money could be better spent on, guess what? Workforce housing. Mayor Volger spoke about how the public needs to come out in record numbers, and then it was opened up for public comments with lots and lots and lots of citizens speaking in opposition. In fact, there wasn't one public comment in favor of this ordinance, except for Bill Hudson's, of course, which is strange because if this was a citizen-led ordinance, shouldn't there have been lots of public comments in favor? But none of those that signed the petition spoke up to express their support. Maybe they were still back at Riff Raff on the Rio drinking some really good beer. But when it comes time to vote, council was required by law to vote yes. And as they did, you could see the disgust on their faces, with some very passionate statements made that although they have to vote yes, they are firmly against this. So we'll see what happens come April. I know there's a lot of frustration out there with STRs, and those who are frustrated could show up and vote in favor out of that frustration. But I hope you realize that this isn't the right ordinance. It's poorly worded, and it puts our town at further risk of lawsuits. This could legitimately damage our tourism industry and hurt our local businesses, which provide a hell of a lot of jobs for our tourism industry. Or maybe most people will see through this and realize citizens should not be writing poorly worded ordinances, and that it should be left up to our town attorney to draft up ordinances based on direction given by staff to be approved or rejected by council. You know, the way that it was meant to work for the past 100 years. I think for me, here's my main point. I think for me, citizens should not be writing ordinances. That's a job for our town attorney, as led by staff and council. And if this passes, what is this going to say to future developers, future investors, future business leaders that want to see this area grow and prosper? Are they willing to invest now that one citizen can come in, take it all away, and hurt an entire industry that provides most of the jobs in our area? It's a question you really need to think about come April. I'm not opposed to the SDR industry chipping in a little more, but not like this. And look, I understand all sides here. I get the struggle going on here with our workforce housing situation. I truly feel for you guys. I used to be in your situation. After college, I moved to Vail, Colorado to work at a ski shop and ski every day. And I made a whole $9 an hour. And I lived in a house with 15 dudes to make this work. 15! There were so many guys there that I lived with another Matt Martin, who was from Texas, who was also engaged at the time like I was. And it was hilarious because this was before the days of cell phones. So when people would call the house and ask for Matt Martin, it was a circus to try and figure out which one. Hey, is Matt there? Which one? Matt Martin. Which one? The one from Texas. Which one? Maybe the engaged one? Which one? It was like a 5-minute process to figure it out. But back then, that was the time of my life. I worked hard, not for money, but for one hell of a mountain lifestyle and beer. And you know what happened to that house we lived in? It got torn down. It got bought out to construct luxury condos. So I really do understand the workers here in Pagosa Springs and their predicament, which is why I wholeheartedly support workforce housing and why I'm excited by the solutions that council has worked hard to bring in by bringing the developer Servitas to develop 60 really sharp looking apartments that we can all be proud of. This is the solution. And council did it without penalizing an entire industry by partnering with some really smart folks who know what they're doing. And hopefully in the future, we can bring in more solutions like this that provide dignity to our workforce while also investing in the prosperity of our local tourism industry and businesses. This is the solution, not poorly worded ordinances that in the end will hurt us all. I can't say enough how proud I am of our council, and especially the employees and staff of the town of Pagosa Springs. You all have an incredibly difficult job, and you do it with such grace and excellence. And I just want to say a gigantic thank you. All right, I think I've gone on long enough. If you see me around town, please introduce yourself. I'd love to hear more about your story and why you live here in beautiful Pagosa Springs. Until next time, cheers, Pagosa. Hey, thanks for watching. If you're looking to move to this magical town and need to buy or sell a home, I'd love to help guide you. And if you're a local business that would like to collaborate to make cool content, contact me. Cheers, Pagosa.